Welcome to Ready, Set, Collaborate with Wanda Pearson. This is where ideas spark, connections grow, and collaborations fuse success. Tune in for inspiring stories, expert insights, and game-changing conversations. Let's build, connect, and thrive together. Remember, collaboration is the key to success.
Welcome to the Ready, Set, Collaborate podcast, where collaboration meets purpose and success shared. I'm your host, Wanda Pearson, author, business strategist, and advocate for small business success. Today, I'm excited to welcome a digital trailblazer and marketing expert who's helping businesses grow smarter, Borja Cuan. Did I say it right, Borja?
Borja.
Boha.
Not easy. That's okay. Not a problem. You're not the first.
Okay, well, good. I'll say, okay, you said Borja.
Yep. Borja Cuan.
Borja Cuan. Okay. He is the founder of 415 Digital. From digital advertising to strategic insights that truly move the needle, Borja and his team have helped countless brands thrive in the digital world. And you know what, Borja, we are definitely in the digital world these days here. So this is going to be a great topic. I'm excited. So let's get ready for an insightful conversation on what it really takes to grow, connect, and thrive online. So let's dive in. But first, let me talk about Borja's bio. So Borja Cuan joined the performance and advertising industry in 1998 and has built a career in the industry providing strategic business solutions for teams and clients. His track record of helping grow stable, successful organizations is underpinned by a career-long personal commitment to great client experiences. Borja combines big picture perspective with exacting attention to make sure 415's clients and team members get value out of their work every day. I love that, Borja, because I tell you, I worked for IBM for 36 years, and it took a lot. I mean, I always say I started when I was a baby, so I retired when I was still young. So that's why I actually started getting into this here. But thank you so much for being on the podcast. Would you like to say something else about what you do and how you got into this?
No, I think you kind of summarized it quite well. I co-founded a performance marketing agency, and simply put, we help businesses scale through digital advertising across Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, and a few other platforms.
Hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, you're on all those. I remember when IBM used to make us go on LinkedIn to update our skills. And I didn't understand, why do we have to update our skills? But I'm so glad they did because it really makes a difference. And being at IBM for 36 years, I had to keep my skills updated. So I travel. I live in Atlanta now, but I used to come to Atlanta a lot and also to our headquarters in New York. But they sent me to Rio de Janeiro 3 times to actually educate the team there on our process, and they had to come and educate on their process. So having that education is so important, right? But now we into the digital world. So it's really something. So boy, tell us about your journey. What led you to start 415 Digital?
Yeah, I think you know, the short answer is it was a culmination of my experiences having worked for 3 or 4 companies over my career that led me to start my own business. I graduated from college, and during college and even earlier than that in high school, I worked at hotels during the summer months, and ended up, when I studied abroad, doing a comprehensive internship at a hotel in Madrid, Spain,
Mhm.
and was really interested in becoming a general manager of a 4 or 5 star property, a luxury property. So that is what I was interested in doing as a career. But that all changed when I received a call from a recruiter that I was working with, who told me that they had a job opportunity for me at a small internet startup in Boston. Um, and so I took that interview, didn't actually get the job that I was applying for, that I interviewed for. And when I got home, the recruiter called me and said, "Hey, by the way, they don't think you're a good fit for the position that you interviewed for, but there is a position that they have open that they are interested in interviewing for that they think you would fit more. Sort of, it was a better fit. So I ended up coming back the following day and interviewed for that position and got that job, and that turned into an 8-year tenure where I learned so much about business and um, marketing and just sort of what it was to work for an internet startup that went public, that then acquired various companies, expanded internationally, expanded product offerings. It was a real fulfilling experience, and I met a lot of great people along the way that became friends, that were mentors of mine, that I learned from, that were very smart and experienced. And then from there, after 8 years, I left the East Coast and moved to the West Coast, where I've been for now, I don't know, 26 years. And I worked for a couple more companies as an employee. And again, used those experiences to learn more about digital marketing, learn more about sort of business. Um, and it was working for a company in San Francisco and being part of their growth team where I met my current business partner. He and I were there working together, overseeing an annual budget of $120 million in ad spend, where we got to know each other a bit. We overlapped there for 2 years. I left that company, and shortly after I left, he approached me with the idea of starting an agency. And so here we are now 9 years later, uh, and it's been great.
That's awesome. And I was going to ask you, what's the story behind the name 415 Digital? What?
Yeah, it's not a very good story, so I don't want to mislead you by any means. We when we were starting up the company, we were thinking of what to call the agency, and I think we had 3 or 4 options, and we basically sent a survey to a small group of people in our network, and we ended up choosing this as the name. And 415 is really an area code in the Bay Area, and that's where the company was founded. So 415 is a Bay Area um, area code. And
Mhm.
so we were founded here. Obviously, we service customers all over the world, but it's where it all started.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you say you were in the East Coast. What part of the East Coast were you in?
I was in Boston. I grew up in Massachusetts,
Okay,
and I went to college in Boston, and then I ended up working there after graduating college for 8 years.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's awesome. Yeah, we were in New Jersey.
Hmm.
Um, well, I'm from Chicago. My husband's from New Jersey. So yeah, we've been to Boston quite a few times, but I can hear that accent, that Boston accent that you
Oh
do.
God. God, I was hoping you wouldn't. Most people say I don't have an accent, so I don't want that accent. So I'm sorry if you are hearing that.
No, no, that's okay. I mean, people say it's from New Jersey, and I'm from Chicago, so I have that little Southern accent as
Yeah.
well. So, that is too funny here. So, what makes your digital marketing approach stand out from others in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think, there are a lot of um, good agencies out there, and unfortunately, there are a lot of not so good agencies out there, right? And I think one of the things and one of the reasons that we decided to start 415 Digital 9 years ago was because we had always been on the buying side, meaning we would hire agencies to help us manage our advertising dollars. We were working client side, so we would evaluate agencies, we would work with them, very often, and we always felt that they did a really good job of selling their services, but we're always underwhelmed with the actual delivery of the services. And so we felt we could do a really good job if we started our own agency because of our experience in media buying and creative and analytics. And so I think one of the things that we consider to be a point of differentiation or a unique value proposition when we talk to prospects is really the care and attention we put into the service side of the business. We are very experienced in terms of the clients that we've worked with, the amount of money we've managed, how many years we've been doing this. So there's all of that. We have all the experience and the credentials and the resume that would impress someone who's looking to work with us. But at the end of the day, it's really about how do we service our customers and how do we make our customers feel and what does that experience look like? And so once we get a customer in the door, we become very obsessive over retaining them, and we take failure very personally. And I think what stands out with us is that we care deeply about the success of our relationships, and it's really all about driving results and great business outcomes for the clients that we work with. So for us, it's really the attention to detail. It's the service level, and ultimately those things lead to better results, which is really the most important thing for our clients. Is if we don't numerically make an impact, if we don't help their business grow, i.e. drive more revenue, increase customer pipeline, no matter how much they like us, and no matter how good we make them feel on every weekly call, unfortunately, they're going to fire us because we need to make their business grow. And so we're really good at that.
That's awesome. And I was going to ask you, how do you balance the analytics and creativity in successful digital campaigns?
Yeah, I think you have to have, when we look for talent, we're looking for someone that has that balance, right? That has the interest in looking at data, understanding data, manipulating data. So there's like the analytical side that's really important, right? You have to look at reports and how are campaigns doing, and then there's a creative side, which is really important, especially when you're talking about supporting social media campaigns or social marketing campaigns, right? Campaigns that are running on TikTok and Google. We know that TikTok and Meta or Facebook, right? Those are performance is primarily driven through creative, right? And so that's either static creative or motion creative, right? You see a lot of ads out there in video formats that are getting people's attention. So in what we do, it's really always having a creative mindset, which means we have to constantly test new ads. And once we find a winner, we shouldn't be complacent. We should find something that can outperform the winner, right? So you can't be stagnant. You have to constantly look at messaging, offer, what does that creative look like? And then we have to be constantly iterating on it and testing and testing and testing. So that's going to require us to have a creative mindset, but also we have to look at the data. So you have to be analytical. We got to launch a campaign. How is that performing? And then based on performance, that informs us on what changes we need to make to constantly optimize it.
That's awesome. And that makes a lot of sense. So what's one campaign or project you're especially proud of, and what it made impactful for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many things that I can think of over the years. I would say, and we work with big companies, so we work with multi-billion-dollar revenue, companies, like companies that are doing many billions of dollars a year in revenue. And then we also work with small businesses, right? Companies that are smaller in revenue. Maybe they do 4 to 10 million a year in revenue, right? And I think there are things that I get excited about working with both types of companies, right? But I think if I think of something that excites me that we recently celebrated as a victory was really helping a small business in the commercial cleaning category. They're sort of commercial cleaning janitorial. They are looking for they're business to business, so they're looking for hotels and restaurants and daycares and museums and gyms. That's their prospects, right? Those are the companies they're reaching, and we help them launch a marketing campaign that really zoned in on their ICP, their ideal customer profile, and we eliminated all the waste that they had running through the campaign. So they were spending a lot of money generating leads that were not qualified for their business. So what I mean by that is they were getting a lot of inbound leads for residential um, opportunities. So folks that were looking for someone to come and clean their house, right?
Mhm.
Which is not business that they're looking for. So there was a lot of wasted dollars that were being invested in targeting consumers versus businesses. So we immediately found opportunity there to improve efficiency and focus solely on the customers that they were looking to engage. And through that process, not only did we eliminate waste, but we also increased the number of prospects in their pipeline and the average deal size because we were able to target very specifically those customers that they were looking to talk to.
That's awesome, and it's funny because that's what I was going to get into next. As far as so many of our listeners are small business and solopreneurs. What's one digital marketing mistake you see them make, and how can they fix it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I'm going to say a couple things, but one is exactly what I just said, which is
Mhm.
trying to market their product or service to everyone instead of defining a clear target audience, right?
Mhm.
So, what I mean by that is whenever I talk to a company, let's say a B2B company, I say, hey, who do you have your ICP defined? Your ideal customer profile, is that well defined? Or it could be plural. You may have one ideal customer profile. You may have more than one, but you should have that really well defined because once we define that, then we know where we should be targeting these ads or serving these ads, right? What platforms are appropriate based on the demographics or what we know about that customer. So it's really important to understand who you're targeting because that informs us on what platforms we should be serving to, right? A lot of times people just cast a really wide net and it leads to wasted ad spend, low conversion rates. So really, it's all about tailoring the marketing to those customers that you're looking to engage, right? So then that's a big one. And then related to that is really a lot of companies don't understand or don't sort of prioritize focusing on really refining the messaging and the offer. So when
Mhm.
I serve an ad to Wanda, what pain points am I solving for her? Right? Like what messaging do I need to include in that ad to get her attention? Right? What offer is appealing to her? Right? Like what are some of the things I need to incorporate into the ad to really increase the probability of Wanda clicking on that ad and filling out that form to get in touch with us? Right?
Mhm.
And they
Yeah,
just kind of overlook these things that they're like, oh, we'll just get an ad up that has the company name on it. And
yeah.
I always say, well, these are the things you have to start thinking about before you're ready for advertising. We need to get the right assets in place to give our ad spend the highest probability of performing, right?
Mhm.
And so I'd say it's targeting, it's messaging, it's the offer, it's also the website and the experience, right? When we drive people from the ad to a page, what does that page look like? Is it optimized for a mobile user, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of things there, but those are some of the things that come to mind.
No, that's awesome, and that makes a lot of sense because actually you answered my question about the ads and social media. As far as how do they begin? But what about their brand? How important is personal branding today, and how can someone build theirs authentically? I always have a problem with authentically.
Yeah, authentically, not an easy word. And you're saying this from as an individual like me, my own
Yeah,
personal brand.
personal branding. If
Yeah,
they
no,
target their name person.
yeah, and I tell my team this all the time, and we talked about this before hitting the record button, but you had even said at IBM, they would always tell you to update your profile on LinkedIn. And I
Yes.
think that was a very smart thing to do because that is one way that people become aware of you. Or in my case, I always tell my team, listen, you should always build your personal brand, right?
Yeah.
You should always have a professional picture on LinkedIn. Make sure the information that you have there is accurate, but also talks to all the great things you're doing, all the work you're doing. Put some effort into it,
Mhm.
right? Because all of this are, when we have clients sign with us and they get assigned their account manager and their team, the first thing the majority of our clients do is they go to LinkedIn to learn more about these people.
Hmm.
Where
That's
did
it.
they work previous to 415? Where did they go to college? What are some of their hobbies? Let me get more learnings about their experience and their background. Are they 21 and inexperienced? Or are they, as they said, they were a senior account manager with 8 years of experience? So I think when it comes to building your personal brand, I think you should really invest in that. And that is, obviously through not only social media marketing, right? Your profiles and things like that. But to me, building your personal brand means every time you are talking to someone, whether a client, a prospect, and a manager, that's an opportunity for you to leave a lasting impression, right? So
Right.
I always say when you interview at a company, in my opinion, I always recommend people not dress for the position they're seeking out, but the position that they want to be down the road in 8 years. Like,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like just uh, put out there what you want people to think of you. If you want people to think you're not neat and tidy, then you should show up with your hair disheveled and in a sweatsuit and your bed not made, right? If that's what you want to leave as a lasting impression, you should do that. But if you want people to know that you are organized and you keep your things, then you should put that out there, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. So they said first impression is the last impression. So you got to make sure you give it that first impression. That's why I actually created mine, even though I was writing, but we do services in Legal Shield. But one of my coaches, he said, Wanda, you got to build your own brand. And that's why I built my WD Pearson Associates and my own brand. So I know that is my brand that I'm putting out there to be able to do these podcasts, to do my books, to do coaching and consulting. So you're absolutely right. I love that.
And by
So
the way, and you said authenticity, and I did a panel, and there were 400 people on this panel,
mhm.
and it was all younger people, some of which were recent grads, and some were not even yet graduated. And that came up, and I always say this to people because I think sometimes people take be your true authentic self too far,
Mhm.
right? Like they
Yeah.
think that they forget that it's still a professional environment. So
Yes.
if your authentic self is, and sorry to use this word, if you're a slob and you don't
Mhm.
care about your hygiene and you don't care about combing your hair and you don't care about the way you act, that doesn't mean you should be your authentic self. I think you still have to maintain a certain level of professionalism and you
Mhm.
should always be who you are at the core, but that doesn't give you an excuse to not be professional just because, you know, you think that's being yourself. So I always say there's a fine line with that authenticity topic,
Mhm.
which is do it within reason, but sometimes your true authentic self you shouldn't be putting out in the public.
Right. Like on social media, Facebook, right? Some of the things that you do. I said, oh my God. I said, because you don't realize that people especially people who are trying to hire you, they're looking at your social media. And it really makes a
Yeah.
big difference when you don't, you're not producing yourself as far as what you want to be or trying to get a job in. So that makes a big difference. So let's talk about collaboration and wisdom real quick. So collaboration is the heart of this podcast. What does collaboration mean to you in your business?
It's so important. Collaboration is almost a requirement in every engagement for us. And what collaboration means to me is the uh, constant flow of communication, right? Communication is a two-way street. And for us to create good business outcomes for our clients requires collaboration. And that means that we're working together to accomplish the goals and objectives that we've set out to accomplish at the beginning of this engagement. So on day one, let's understand what the expectations are of each party. Let's understand what the client's goals and objectives are. And then let's come up with a plan to accomplish those goals and objectives. Let's start working on that plan and checking in periodically. But throughout that process, we are collaborating, which means we're coming together and sharing thoughts and ideas on how to make this successful. And an engagement is never successful when only one party has the willingness to collaborate. right? It has to be both sides because collaboration is only successful if both parties are coming together to talk
Mhm.
about these things, right? So I think collaboration and what we do is a requirement. And if I were thinking of some one or two things that make an engagement successful, it's that fluid or constant flow of collaboration where we're meeting with clients, we're talking about things, we're exchanging ideas, we're challenging each other, we're having different points of view. That is sort of what an engagement is really meant to be.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. Really, it's working together. I always say collaboration is the key to success. That's how you become successful when you're actually working together here. So, what advice would you give to companies looking to improve their collaborative culture to better support growth marketing initiatives?
I mean, I think you have to encourage and facilitate that. You need to be clear with that being an important pillar of the business, right? So for
Hmm.
us, we say communication, which is, analogous or synonymous with collaboration, right? I think for
Hmm.
us, what I always say is communication is the most important skill set you should aspire to have, the ability to communicate both in oral and written form. It's the difference between getting to the next level and not, in my opinion, right? That's a soft skill that you can't ever sort of prioritize something over that. So, like, what we do is we really, let our team know that it's really important that we be doing this on a constant basis. So it's making it clear that that's an important part of the culture and the business and the way that we service clients. And then it's, what does collaboration mean? It means, hey, we can't do this alone. We will not be successful if we do this as individual contributors. The greatest outcomes are going to be if we work together as a team, right? And what does that mean? Well, it means let's define each of our roles, and then let's define what those goals are for each of those roles, and then how each of us has an impact to those goals. And there's no one person whose impact is greater or lesser. So we all have an impact to making this successful, right? And we have to treat each other as equals. It doesn't matter if my title is higher than yours or I make more money than you, or we all have a role in this team and we all have to contribute and it all impacts the bottom line. So I think through that process, it's like, hey, we got to do this together. We got to collaborate. We got to challenge each other. We have to push back on each other. It's kind of like ingrained in our culture, but it's also explaining what that means in sort of practical ways.
Hmm. Hmm. That makes a big sense. And I tell you, in fact, my husband and I, we have four C's: communication, compromise, consideration, communication, compromise, consideration, and let's see, what's that fourth C? But I always forget there's a lot of C's here. Yeah, so it really makes a big difference, even not in just a marriage, but also in a business, compromising and consideration, as far as that. So can you share a recent success story where a collaborative approach significantly impacted a client's marketing position or revenue growth?
I mean, I don't know if there's one. I would just say um, it just happens every day. There's not one example. I would say I guess I would say there's never not been an example of that
Mhm.
um, where it's led to growth. I mean, every day the team, I see this because they're meeting together, they're talking on Slack together, they're putting PowerPoints together. Just yesterday, we had a in-person client meeting where we were doing a quarterly business review, and that effort was a collaboration of three or four people working together to produce this piece of content that then we presented to the client. And the feedback from that client immediately following that 2 hour meeting was, this was so productive, right? I love how you guys took the time to put this together and present it. And it included sort of a review of the past quarter, but also a roadmap of what you were going to be doing during the next quarter. And then some of the challenges that we have and some of the things you need from us. So, like, that was leading up to that meeting, that was a collaborative effort by four people who not only were putting the content together, but reviewing the content to make sure it made sense. Then we had designers making it look pretty. So there's all of these people that are involved in producing this deliverable that then we present to a client, and the client review at the end is it was a wild success.
That's awesome. And that's what collaboration comes into play because you're working with the different teams and stuff. So that is awesome. So we're getting down to the end here. So looking ahead, what trends or developments do you foresee in collaborative growth marketing, and how should companies prepare to leverage these opportunities?
I mean, I think there's just more tools, right? Nowadays that people can use, right? There's AI, which we've all heard of,
Mm,
right? I think there's just a lot of tools that businesses should really understand and embrace rather than resist, that can improve the ability to collaborate when you're dealing with teams, in particular distributed teams, right? So I think it gets harder. Collaboration for me has always been more challenging when you're not next to me or in the same office, right? And now
mm,
it's very common to see a distributed workforce, right? A lot of employees working remotely. I'm a bit against that, frankly.
mm.
We have a 3 day in office, 2 day work from home policy. And those
Okay.
3 days, we're doing a lot of in-person collaboration, and that will never replace, I'm sorry, no matter what tool, you will never ever replace sitting next to a customer, across the table from a
Mhm.
customer, and meeting with them in person, right? So I
Mm,
think the point is I think there's a lot of tools that allow you as a company to improve collaboration, to create efficiency, and it's a lot. It's everything to me always starts with leadership and direction, and sort of uh, letting team members know how important it is that we not operate in silos, and that we have an open mind to work together and to be creative and to really um, uh, just as you said so many times, right? Like it's going to take more than one of us to make this successful. So if we have that mentality and we have a willingness to do that, I think we're all better off.
that's right. Awesome. Awesome. Well, this has been very enlightening, Borgia. I appreciate you and thank you for sharing your wisdom and your journey and your heart for helping businesses grow. You actually have showed us a lot, told us a lot as far as your tips and your experience on how this all works as far as the digital market, as far as how it's on there. So your insights are reminded that with the right strategy and support, any business can shine online, right? So to our listeners, if today's episode inspired you, be sure to follow Ready Set Collaborating and connect with Borja and his team at 415 Digital. And remember, when we collaborate, we elevate. Until next time, stay purposeful and keep moving forward. Thanks again, Borja, for being on the Ready Set Collaborate podcast. I truly appreciate you being here. And thanks for reaching out to me. You know,
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed our conversation very much.
thank you so much. So bye now, audience. Bye. Till next time.
That wraps up another episode of Ready, Set, Collaborate with Wanda Pearson. I hope you found inspiration and valuable insights to help you build meaningful connections and successful collaborations. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, share, and stay tuned for more great discussions. Until next time, keep collaborating and making an impact.